Polls have just closed in Australia's most populous states in what's being seen as a landmark election. The first exit poll shows the centre-left Labor Party, led by Bill Shorten, with a narrow lead. If confirmed, that would mean the end of Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Conservative government. Climate policy has been a major issue in the campaign. Labor has pledged ambitious targets for renewable energy, but the Liberals say that would damage Australia's coal-driven economy. Well, DW reporter Jared Reid has been following the Australian election closely and joins me in the studio now for more. Hello to you, Jared. So we know that it's a very tight race. Are there, however, any indication of who ultimately will end up being the winner?
Well, I'm looking at one exit poll from Galaxy, and it indicates that the Labor Party is on 52 to 48%, which means the opposition would form a new government if this is confirmed. This is a 2.4% swing away from the government, and if this is confirmed, then that would mean at least 80 of the 150 seats in Australia's lower house would go to Labor, which is obviously a clear majority to form a government. Of course, the exact makeup of the parliament we're going to have to wait for when the actual results come through.
All right, so it remains a tight race. Now, Jared, this has been called the climate change election. Could this topic ultimately become a deciding factor in who gets the vote?
Absolutely. I think, various surveys of voters put climate change as the number one issue that voters say they were concerned about. And there are a couple of reasons why Australians are observing the changing weather around them. Last year was the hottest year on record in Australia, but there's also a frustration among voters at the failure of governments over the last 10 years or so to put in place lasting climate policy. Climate and energy policy is very contentious in Australia. Australia is, of course, the world's largest exporter of coal. And under the current government, they've sort of taken a business as usual approach. They wanted to match their obligations under the Paris Agreement, but not do any more because they say they didn't want to suffer any economic, downturns from that. Whereas the Labor, they've had 6 years in opposition to come up with their policies, and they've had a much more ambitious agenda. But this campaign has kind of been fought on big issues like climate change, like tax reform and economic management too, because Australia's economy is slowing down after many years of consecutive economic growth. So these are some of the issues that have been fought out in this campaign.
Well, you mentioned voter frustration. I should assume that voters are probably also somewhat frustrated over how many prime ministers Australia has seen come and go, where this election could deliver the sixth in as many years. How is that being perceived right now?
Well, I think Australians are, pretty tired of going to bed knowing that this person's the prime minister, and they wake up the next day and because of political infighting in Canberra, which is far removed from their personal realities, someone else is running the country, and politicians are quite bad at explaining why this keeps happening, and so voters don't really understand why, and this contributes to a frustration with lawmakers, and I guess is driving some voters to some of the smaller parties.
All right, Jared Reid, thank you so much for breaking it down for us.